You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 337. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Steph.
How are you?
Oh, still bright and chipper.
Yeah. Still in our coastal blues.
Yes. I love it. Pretending we're still on the beach, and we always will.
And we always will, all summer long. Yep.
Yeah.
That's where you'll find us.
So let's get controversial today.
I love it.
And I'm sure everyone's like, oh no, what are they going to talk about now?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about audiobooks. Are they actual reading?
Yes. And the funny thing about that topic, like the read the damn book topic, is these are topics that shouldn't actually be controversial, in my opinion.
Yeah.
However, they are.
Yeah.
If you are working with a client and supporting their book, read the damn book. And in my opinion, and I believe I'm right on this, and this is a hill I will die on, whoa, can I speak? I'm getting too excited. Audiobooks are, in fact, reading. They count as reading.
They do.
And Michelle agrees with me on this. And I am so tired. I posted a pie years ago that said, listening to audiobooks is reading. And inevitably, no matter what I put in the caption, because I'll put in the caption, I understand that you could also call it listening, but it counts as having the book read. And inevitably, I get a million comments on it, not really that many, but like a good amount of comments on it saying, nope, it doesn't count. Audiobooks aren't reading. You read with your eyes. And then my response to that is, do people reading Braille not read the book? Because it doesn't matter if you're reading the book with your fingers or your eyeballs or your ears. If your brain is taking in the information, you have read the book. Okay? I understand that the literal definition of reading is eyes to page, but not everybody can do eyes to page.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's brain works that way. And so if you show up at book club and you're like, oh no, I didn't read the book, but you listened to it, are you not going to participate in the conversation? You have the same exact amount of information everybody else does. You have absorbed the content of the book, the content of whatever you are taking in. And it's super frustrating that people think it doesn't count. And inevitably, I will run into new people, even in like my book club. I'll have like someone join and be like, well, I read this many books this month, but I also listened to this many, and those don't really count, do they? And I'm like, well, what do you think you're doing with your time? Just like sitting around? Like, you absorbed the book. You know the story. You felt the story. You learned from that story. You have, in a much more global sense, read the book. Because I think, there are two definitions of reading in my head that I'm making up right now. We've got our very literal sense of what people think of as eyes to page, where, you get your, but again, not everybody reads that way. And so there is the larger sense, which is what we mean when we talk about loving to read or reading the book or being a big reader. It's the absorbing of the story. It's the escaping into the story. And that is absolutely done through whatever form your body will let you do it. I don't care if you have someone like sitting and reading it to you in your room, which is no different than like back in the olden times when people would read to their elderly aunts. I'm thinking of Little Women, like reading the stories.
See, this whole time I've been thinking about being a mom reading to your child.
Oh, yes, exactly.
If you're being read to, does that not count? Because the child is listening to the book. The children are the OG of audiobook consumers.
The OG audiobook consumers, agreed. And I get that when you are talking in a literal sense as like an elementary school teacher and you are trying to teach children how to read words, that is a different concept. But kids fall in love with reading, like you said, as the original OG listeners. They fall in love with reading through the sounds of their parents' voices, through the stories coming alive from the way their parents read them. And they can easily say, this is my favorite book without ever having read it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's valid because they have engaged in the story in the manner which what it was meant to be engaged. Because at the end of the day, I have a lot of opinions about how authors feel when I'm not one, but I feel like an author wants people to engage with their story. They want people to love and dive into their story. And the fact that there has been this, frankly, very ableist mindset of you can't count it if you're just listening, or that somehow you're dumber if you listen to the book versus putting your eyes to paper. I mean, just boggles my mind. Boggles my mind because it doesn't make sense to me that someone would think that way. What are your thoughts?
There's a lot of things that people think that don't make sense to me.
That's fair. That's
So
fair.
this would be right up that alley. Yeah, I was never an audiobook person until more recently.
Yeah.
Simply because I enjoy the whole sitting down
Right.
reading.
Yeah.
And then when I discovered that I can multitask,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
that's when I was like, oh, now
Oh,
this is beneficial.
yes.
And I can clean my house while listening to a full book
Absolutely.
and I don't miss anything.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I love it. So it is definitely a form of reading. It is
Yes.
reading. It is
It is
reading.
reading.
It is reading.
Yes.
Because like you just said about read the damn book. Do you know what the story is? Do you know what characters? Do you know what the plot is? Then you've read the book.
Exactly.
Because when we say read the book, we mean read the book. We don't skim, don't hold it up to make it, oh, look, it's pretty.
Right.
That's not reading the book.
Don't just look at the back cover. Like we're talking engaging in the story, fully absorbing the story. And that can be done a variety of ways, whether it be through, again, Braille or someone reading it to you or you reading it with your eyeballs. It's something I'm really passionate about because I was for lack of a better term, eyeball reader for my whole life. And then I developed really severe ADHD, which I kind of always had, didn't really know I had. But as it got worse in my adult years, I was having a harder time reading the book with my eyeballs because I would jump around, I would get distracted, and I knew it wasn't the author's fault. It wasn't the book's fault. It was something going on with me. And I think even as that shift happened, I was also shifting to more busy life parenting, like, and when you have a little baby, it's easier to sit down with an actual book while you're holding them or nursing, those kind of things. But when you're busy with toddlers or just life or, preteens, whatever you have, like you're doing laundry, you're driving people places. I think audiobooks just work for my life better now. And now I'm to the place where I do 99.9% of my reading through audiobooks because I don't have the time to sit down with a physical book and I don't engage with the story as well. I am a visual learner, so I will remember characters' names better if I'm reading the book physically with my eyeballs. I will enjoy the story and be able to focus on the story more if I'm listening. And so it's kind of complicated. I think at the end of the day, it's about how you best absorb a story. And there has been for too long almost this thought process of demeaning those who listen because it doesn't count. You're not a real reader. You're not actually sitting and engaging your brain in the story. And to that, I say it's bullshit because we absolutely are. And thankfully, due to the invention of the smartphone and audiobooks being more accessible, it used to be like discs on tape. And that was a little, harder to manage. Um, the audiobook world is phenomenal. I mean, you get top actors and actresses and like people at the top of their craft creating this story, like reading this story to you. And it's this beautiful opportunity for more readers to engage in books. My husband always struggled reading with his eyeballs. How many times can I say eyeballs in this one thing? I feel weird saying
Everybody drink. No.
Yeah, exactly. We could have shots. He's always struggled reading with his eyes because he doesn't necessarily paint the picture in his head. Like there's a disconnect there. And we never knew what it is. I mean, he's a very bright, intelligent man. It's just whatever that is. And so I was like, you need to start listening to audiobooks because he loves podcasts. And I'm like, you just need to start. So he started listening to Lee Child's The Jack Reacher series, of which there are 75 million books. And he's been listening to those nonstop, just into his book. And it's been wonderful for him. And he is fully absorbed in it. And I think it's such a beautiful and new opportunity for readers to be able to engage with an author's work. And readers of all ages, whether it be, you don't want to put a TV screen on for your kids, play them an audiobook. If you need to do some chores around the house, so you can't sit down and physically read the book to them, put on the audiobook. You've got the top stars narrating these children's stories. They're incredible, and, I don't know. I just think it's something I'm so passionate about because it is my method of reading. And I actually spoke about this at Thriller Fest last year. In that there was somebody asking the panel how early you should send your books to bloggers or bookstagrammers or book talkers before, your book comes out. And I just said, listen, I'm not going to be able to get to your book until it's in audiobook form. So the more companies release early advanced audiobooks, the more authors have the ability to give those to the reader ahead of time and say, which form would you prefer to read this in? You are going to open your readership and your advanced pre-pub buzz so much more because you're opening a door to people who haven't been able to engage with your book before until after pub day. One of the things Rosie, our sweet Rosie Lee, who is
Yes.
the best, she does for me every single time is she makes sure to contact Penguin Random House to get me the advanced audiobook way ahead of time as soon as it's ready because it's narrated by Bonnie Turpin. She knows that she's one of my very favorite narrators. She goes above and beyond to make sure I get that audiobook just because she saw a post on my page about me liking audiobooks. That is how you promote your book. That is how you work with people to get your name out there. You look at the reader you are reaching and you say, like, how best can I reach this person? And because in either form, it's a boost. It's someone reading, engaging with your book. And the narrative that audiobooks don't count is doing damage to the authors of these stories or frankly the readers who want to be able to say they're readers, and then they get caught up in this, oh, I don't know, I read one book this month but I listened to 5. It's like, okay, you
read
six. You did. Can I give you a quiz on the book right now? Like, you read it, you listened, you engaged, you felt the feelings. So
that's something that has to change, that people
Agreed.
think that because the example that I keep thinking of is the game show Jeopardy. And the reason why they read the question and they show the question is because people process it in their brains differently.
Yes, I love that.
And so if Jeopardy has figured this out many, 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 many years ago, then the book community needs to also recognize that audiobooks count as reading.
Yes.
Period. End of story. No controversy.
There's really no controversy here. And you can come at me. I will lay down on this hill and die on it all day long. Because at the end of the day, what is your goal in reading? Is it just to be like, ooh, my eyeballs touched this many words today. Do you ever think in that way? No.
No.
You think, have I heard this story? Do I know this story? Do I know what is inside these pages? And it doesn't matter, again, how you do that. So that narrative is so toxic, so damaging, and yet it still happens. And I am boggled by that. Like, why read then if you think there's only one right way to do it? What if you go blind? Does that mean you have to stop enjoying your stories? Because it can happen, macular degeneration. It's a thing. People get cataracts, like accidents happen. You don't know.
I have congenital glaucoma.
There you go.
So if I were not to take my eye drops twice a day, every day,
yeah,
I might only be an audiobook reader at some point.
Yes. And that would be sad for your eyeballs. Oh my God.
Yes.
Like 75 times I've said that. But
it can happen and you don't
reading.
Yeah.
And I think, I get that there's certain people who, like you said, everybody's brain processes things differently. So for some people, audiobooks just aren't for them. And that is absolutely okay. I didn't think I would be an audiobook reader. You kind of have to build into it. You kind of have to get used to it because it is a change when you're used to reading the words on the page, to have the story in your ear. But the more I practiced it, now it's just second nature. I can't do anything. I always have an earbud in, almost always during the day, because I'm almost always have my audiobook ready to play. I have one ear open for the kids, but then I have my audiobook ready to play at any time. Because if I'm doing the dishes, I need to be listening to my audiobook. I'm not doing the dishes unless I have an audiobook to listen to. I am not going to fold the laundry unless I have an audiobook to listen to. I'm not going to mow the lawn without an audiobook. Okay. Like I can't, become so bougie in my audiobook listening that I will not do those things without it.
I love it. I won't clean the house without one.
Nope. Don't do it. Don't do it.
No. And I love it. I remember, I can tell you not the last time I cleaned the house, but one of the last times I was cleaning the house, I was listening to Ed Begley Jr.'s memoir.
Does he narrate it?
He does.
Oh, I bet that sounds comforting and like lovely.
It was so good. And then I got to meet him in person and it was like, okay, this is it all. I think it made it better for me. It can make that experience better because you're hearing in their own words and their voice what their life was like. So, I mean, memoir on audiobook.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
And I narrated my own audiobook. Yep. So people have said to me like that, it was so great to hear you and it's the same inflection and,
Yes. And you're saying
it's
exactly
me.
Like you wanted to say. Obviously, there are some narrators out there that I do not like to listen to just because of how maybe the cadence of their voice or whatever, and that's it. It is what it is. But the majority of them that I've come across, I mean, they do so much research into how to say a certain phrase or how to say a certain name or what is the dialect of this region. And they just do a lot of really careful research to make sure that they get all of that right. And especially when it comes to a memoir, it's your story or like your book about business. It's your passion. And so coming from you, it's going to just be more enthusiastic. I think it's going to come more true to form if the author themselves narrate it. I don't love it when the authors narrate their own fiction books, unless they are an experienced like actor. But I do love memoirs in the person's own voice. I think that's really powerful.
And I mentioned this in the last episode, how much you give credit to audiobook narrators because it is a lot of work. They do read the book in advance. It takes hours upon hours, whatever the length of the audiobook comes out to be. Go ahead and double or triple that is the time that they spent in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
I know this fact.
Yeah.
Because it's not a one and done.
Right.
You go in, you start reading the book. Then you pause because the audio engineer says, I don't think that's the proper pronunciation of that.
Right.
And then you look it up. And then you have to repeat yourself.
Yeah.
And you stop for water. And you stop for lunch. And you go back and forth. And then the audio engineer goes, give me more Hollywood in that.
Yeah.
And so you re-record that part. So it's a lot. And
Mhm.
then if you are me, you end up crying at the very end when you get to your acknowledgments and you have to take a 30-minute break to refresh.
Oh, I love
So
that.
it is work,
It is.
people.
Oh, it's huge work and it's
So much
important
goes
work.
into this.
And the fact that oh my gosh, how am I forgetting the name of the book? Hold please. This is important that I look this up. I cannot, my brain today. Let's see. Oh, I didn't even need to look up. Okay, Julia Whalen has written a couple fiction novels. She is my very favorite audiobook narrator. And she just started my audiobook library where she has her own original work narrated. I mean, she's doing amazing things in the audiobook sphere. And she wrote her most recent, which I think came out several years ago, called Thank You for Listening. And it's about an audiobook narrator. And it's like a romance, but it's super good. And
I think I have it on my
yes,
shelf.
it's so good. And obviously she narrates it, but she goes into the details of just what an audiobook session can look like. And I can't even fathom keeping the voices for every single character right in my head because, when you're playing a role on screen, I imagine you dive into one character, right? But when you're an audiobook narrator, you are being multiple characters and you have to make sure you have the dialect right for each one and the voices right for each one. And that's impressive. That's a lot of work. And what they're doing today is just, they are bringing books to life in a way that is unparalleled. They're so good. And then you find a book like Julia Whalen's voice matches with Emily Henry's writing so perfectly that the combo of the two elevates the story to a new level. It's just so good. And so it's so cool. I actually had an opportunity to meet, there's this company called Audiophile, and they were the OG audiobook recommendation station, essentially. They had a magazine, print magazine. I think they still do print, but a lot of it's online. And they have a podcast. It was founded by a woman named Robin Whitten, I believe, in the 80s, a long time ago, before she was ahead of her time. But they were basically acknowledging the best voices out there for audiobooks and helping people know where to go. And it's incredible that that vision has bled into what it is today. And there are so many incredible voices. And now what's so special about it is I will, because I'm doing other things, often making pie while listening to an audiobook. When I'm editing the videos of my pies, I will remember a piece of the story I was listening to. It'll be a totally different book, but I will be like, oh, that was that doc scene in that Carly Fortune novel, or oh, that was this moment. And and then the narrators, I just developed this emotional attachment to them. I think I haven't actually I've met one audiobook narrator of books I listen to regularly in person. And that was Catherine Steadman. She's an actress and she was a Reese's Book Club pick. She writes thrillers. She narrates her own books and it was cool meeting her in person. But I feel like I've trauma bonded with some of these people's voices. Julia Whalen read The Women by Kristen Hanna and all of Emily Henry's. And I'm I feel like I would start crying if I got to meet you in person. And it would be so beautiful because I just have connected with her voice and the character she brings to life in such a powerful way. It really is a gift. And I'm so grateful for it because it elevates my reading experience tenfold.
I love that. And I love that audiobooks are more accessible too.
Yes.
I'm a big Libby fan and
Yes.
now you can get audiobooks on Libby.
Yes.
So recently I don't pay for Spotify,
Okay.
but we were going camping and we knew we wanted music. And so I was like, well, I'll just try the free trial for a month and download all of my songs so we can listen in Yosemite. And then I realized, oh yeah, they're now doing audiobooks.
Yeah, they are.
So you can bet that I'm going, oh, I'm going to listen to this one now and
Yep.
this one now. And so you can listen.
You can
You listen for free. You can listen on Spotify. You can download them on Amazon. Amazon's got their thing.
Yeah.
It's so great that there are so many ways that you can listen to it. And
Yes.
even NetGalley
Yes.
has a whole section of
That
theirs.
was the best day when NetGalley started doing audiobooks. I'm listening to a NetGalley audiobook right now. I will kiss the feet of every person that has allowed me to become part of an advanced audiobook program, because I got to a point where I could not read books in advance. I just couldn't do it. And that was, I mean, just like a year or two ago. Like, I was reading with my eyes for a while, but it's gotten to the point where I just can't sit anymore. And again, it's nothing. And I do miss it. I do miss curling up with a book on a chair. There is something so lovely about that. But I just can't engage with the story like I used to. And so having all of these areas, and like Michelle said, there's Libby, which contracts with your local library. The great thing about borrowing things from Libby is every time you get an audiobook or an ebook from Libby, it supports your local library and it goes to helping them get the funding that they need. So win-win in that they're free and they are benefiting your local library. Downside to Libby is oftentimes if it's a new release, you are going to have a long wait, which is a little hard. Then there's a company called Everand. It used to be Scribd, and I believe they've changed their policy. Now it's $16.99 a month, I think, for 3 unlocks, which is basically 3 audiobooks you can unlock. They have a majority of new releases. So if you think of $16, $17 a month for 3 audiobooks, that's actually not bad pricing.
Right.
The only thing is you don't get to keep them afterwards. It's kind of like you unlock them and then they stay with them and you don't get to listen to them after, which is a bit of a bummer. Then you've got Libro FM, which we love, and they use audiobooks to support independent bookstores. So I believe they're like about $15 a month for one audiobook, which is the main pricing that Amazon is kind of set as the standard. You get one audiobook, but they do have sales. And every time you purchase an audiobook through them or use your credit, it goes to support an independent bookstore, which is amazing. And then there is Audible, and they have a variety of options. Obviously, it does feed the big bad beast of Amazon, but I will say Audible, so it's about the same price as Libro FM, and you get one audiobook. Okay, and so Audible is about the same price, about $15 a month, and you get the one audiobook. They also have a lot of sales. I will say they do have a lot of Audible originals, which are included in their monthly membership so you get those for free. And then they have a lot of big stars narrating those. Dan Stevens, as I've mentioned before, he's from Downton Abbey. He narrates Frankenstein that is available through Audible Originals, and it is the best version of Frankenstein. So you get different things from each one. It's about what you're passionate about. And then Spotify, I think for their, Spotify membership, which is, again, I think it's about $15 a month.
About 15, yeah.
You get 15 hours of audiobook listening. So it's a little different. So if you listen to, like I listened to The Bright Years at 1.7 speed, and it took me about 5 hours to read through the whole book. And so that's 3 books if you at that length. So it just depends on how.
Oh, so the hours only count for how long it takes you to read a single book. So when I'm reading at 2 times speed, then it only counts for
No, you get
the amount of time.
Hours no matter what.
Right.
So the faster you listen to the book.
That's what I'm saying.
The more you get in. Yeah.
Oh.
So I think that's how Spotify works. So everything's a little bit different. Spotify, you also get the music. So that's nice.
Right.
And the podcasts like us. And so it's kind of just about what fits your lifestyle. But I highly recommend, if you've been interested in audiobooks, trying them out. there are so many good narrators: Julia Whalen, Marin Ireland, Richard Armitage. I've mentioned all of them so many times. Bonnie Turpin. I'm blanking. There's a woman in the Bridgerton show that narrated a book by Abi Dare, and her voice is so phenomenal. I cannot remember what her name is, though. Oh my gosh. Anyway, there are so many good ones out there that are just top notch. And Carissa Vacker, she does a lot of thrillers. I love her voice for thrillers. So if you're interested in trying them and you're not sure what to do, my recommendation is always to start at a slower speed that you feel comfortable with. I almost always start a book at 1.5 and then I increase to about 1.7 once I'm into the story. Because I don't want to sometimes I'm like, whoa, I don't know what's happening here. It's too fast. So do that how you need it, how your brain needs it, and practice. Just try doing it when you do the dishes or try doing it when you fold the laundry. And it could open up a whole new world of reading for you because yes, it does count as reading the damn book. And that is what we're all about here.
Yes, I love it.
So that is my podcast or my audiobook TED Talk. You're welcome.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah. And go read the damn book, everybody.
Yes, however works best for
or
you.
Listen. Yeah. Whatever works. It counts.
Yes.